Hello and welcome to my school channel. My name is Angela, and in this video we're going to continue the government topic by topic video lesson. We're moving on to a new topic called political ideologies. We're going to talk about people's perception of how government and society should work. So we're going to discuss the features, merits and demerits of various political ideologies all around the world. We're going to divide this video lesson into two parts, where in the first part we'll discuss some political ideologies, and in the second part we'll move on to the other ones. So please stay with us, don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. Welcome back to the My School channel. Like I said earlier, we're going to be moving on to the new topic, political ideology. So let's dive right into it. Alright, so these are the political ideologies that we're going to be discussing. We're going to be discussing Anarchism, Capitalism, Communalism, Communism, Conservatism, Environmentalism, Fascism, Identity politics, Imperialism, Liberalism, Libertarianism, Nationalism, Nazism, and Socialism. These are all political ideologies, and we're going to discuss the features, the merits, and the demerits of each of these ideologies. So let's begin with the definition of political ideologies. Political ideologies are ethical ideals, principles, doctrines, myths, or symbols of a social movement, institution, class, or large group that explains how society should work and offer some political or cultural blueprints for a certain social order. So the most important part of this definition is that it discusses ideals or principles. It also discusses how a society should work. The word should is important. It doesn't discuss how the society is running, but it discusses how a society should work, right? In terms of the political and cultural blueprints of that society. So we are discussing politics, how the government should run the society, and we are discussing cultural aspects, how members of the society should behave within that society. So all of these are discussed under political ideologies. So it is important to note that the word should be part of your definition. So how a society should work is the definition of political ideology. So a political ideology largely concerns itself with how to allocate power and to what end it should be used. Now we're talking about the political aspects. So how should power be allocated within the society? Should it be allocated to the government or to the people or to certain members of the society? So you discuss that under political ideology. Some political parties follow a certain ideology very closely, while others may take broad inspiration from a group of related ideologies without specifically embracing any one of them. So in the American society, the political parties in the American society follow certain ideology. For example, the Republican Party, they are conservative in nature. We're going to discuss that as a political ideology. While the Democratic Party are liberal in nature. In the Nigerian society, however, we do not have political ideologies followed by the different political parties in Nigeria. People often say that the APCs are more progressive in nature. That means that they value change. This means that they are more liberal in nature than conservative. While people often believe that the People's Democratic Party, PDP, are more conservative in nature, but that is still up for debate because they do not follow an exact ideology. They only talk about plans on how to move the country forward. We are still a developing country. We are not fully developed, so we do not really focus on ideology. Rather, we focus on practical plans to develop the society. So political ideologies have two dimensions. When we are talking about political ideology, we have to talk about both goals and methods. Goals is how a society should be organized. What are those things that the government needs to do so that the society will be organized in a certain way? The methods are the way the governments can achieve these goals that have been set. So goals and method are the two things that are discussed under political ideology. Typically, each ideology contains certain ideas on what it considers to be the best form of government, e.g. autocracy or democracy, and also the best economic system, e.g. capitalism or socialism. So most of the time we talk about the form of government and the economic system. The economic system is the way the issue of allocation of resources should be addressed in the society by the government and members of the society. So now let's move on to the next slide. So this is the first political ideology we're going to discuss. Remember in the first video lesson, we talked about the form of government known as anarchy. Anarchy is a form of government while anarchism is the political ideology, how a society should work. So certain people believe that the society should be anarchist in nature because they subscribe to this ideology. Anarchism is a political ideology and movement that advocates for a stateless society based on voluntary cooperation, mutual aid, and self-management. So they believe that members of the society should be the one running the society and not the government. So there should be no state, no government within the society. So the word anarchism is from the ancient Greek anarchia, which means without a ruler. It seeks to abolish all forms of hierarchical authority, including the state, capitalism, patriarchy, and other forms of social domination. So anything that seeks to hold power, as opposed to other members of the society who do not hold power in that society, they try to abolish that. So when we are talking about capitalism, power rests in the hands of the rich and not the poor. So they do not like this system. So they try to abolish that within the society. When we're talking about patriarchy, power lies in the hands of the men in the society. They try to abolish that as well. And other forms of social domination within the society. So now let's move on to the next slide where we'll discuss the core principles of anarchism. One of the core principles is that it advocates for the abolition of the state, viewing it as a tool of domination and illegitimate, regardless of its political tendencies. So they believe that the government, the states in the society, they hold all the power, and so they take away the power from the common people. Anarchism also emphasizes direct democracy, where individuals and communities control their own affairs without centralized authority. So power lies in the hands of the people and not the government or the state. Anarchists critique capitalism for creating inequality and exploitation and advocates for communal ownership of economic resources. So here they believe that the resources within society should be held by members of the society and not just a few elites within the society. So this is why they critique capitalism as an economic system. Anarchism also values personal freedom and autonomy and opposes the suppression of one's autonomy by any form of hierarchical authority. So they value personal freedom. They believe that everybody should be free to do whatever they want within the society. Then also they use art to critique existing societies and hierarchies. They prefigure an ideal anarchist society and serve as a tool for direct action. So they use art as a tool of expression to express how governments and the states within the society, they continue to oppress and exploit members of the society. They try to influence people to stand up and fight against the state and the government. So they use art as a tool of expression. Now let's move on to the next slide. All right, so I'm going to discuss the merits of anarchism. One is empowerment. So by rejecting hierarchical authority, anarchism empowers individuals and communities to take control of their own lives and make decisions collectively. So it empowers members of the society to fight for their rights, as opposed to the states and the governments who always sometimes abuse their rights in the society. So they try to get them to fight for their rights and to stand up against the powerful states and the governments. It also advocates for equality. Anarchism strives for a society without systemic inequalities and privileges and aims to eliminate suppression based on class, race, gender, and other factors. We talked about how they constantly critique capitalism, which is usually known for creating a society with classes, with racism, with gender discrimination, and all the other things. So they try to ensure that there is equality within society. Everybody has equal power within the society. It also advocates for liberty. Anarchism values personal freedom and autonomy and allow individuals to pursue their own paths without interference from oppressive structures. Remember, they talked about how it is important to have personal freedom within society. And without the state or the government to keep people down, to oppress them, they are constantly in a state of autonomy, freedom. So they also fight for environmental sustainability. Many anarchists advocate for environmentally sustainable practices and oppose industrial capitalism. Again, they oppose capitalism. And we know that one of the features of capitalism is that often they fight for gaining or amassing wealth regardless of how it influences the environment around them. And so this is why they often critique capitalism. They fight for keeping the rivers clean. They fight for keeping the air free from pollution and so many other things. So they see capitalists as exploitative and ecologically destructive. So now let's move on to the demerits of anarchism. One of the demerits of anarchism is impracticality. So the most common critique of anarchism is the assertion that humans cannot self-govern, and so a state is necessary for human survival. We talked about how it's important for individuals to have freedom to do whatever they want, but sometimes you have bad seeds within the society who can choose to do the wrong thing that will influence other members of the society or affect other members of the society. And there will be no state or government to punish them for their wrongdoing. And because of that, you can see that anarchism is impractical. You need someone to lay down the law within the society. And that demerit of anarchism is economic inviability. So the economic models proposed by anarchists, such as communal ownership and cooperative enterprises, may struggle to compete with capitalist economies on a larger scale. Capitalism has been practiced for generations to come, and the reason for that is because it is the only practical method of governing society, of allocating resources within the society. And other models have been tried and they have not succeeded. So some critics of anarchism believe that the model that anarchists are trying to incorporate in the society may not actually work. So another demerit of anarchism is the problem of human nature. Some critics contend that anarchism is overly idealistic about human nature. When we are talking about something that is idealistic, we mean that it's not realistic, it's not practical. So because it assumes that people will naturally cooperate and act altruistically, that means in a good manner, without coercive structures. So all of this shows that anarchism may not work. People may not always have good intentions for other people in the society. And when you are trying to propose a system where you expect everybody to have good intentions, it won't work in the society. So this is one of the criticisms of anarchism. And that criticism is that people are resistant to change. So the radical changes proposed by anarchists can face significant resistance from established institutions and those who vested interest in maintaining the status quo. So if you're trying to radicalize society, to change things in society, it is very difficult to do that because people are resistant to change. They like the way things are in the society. So now let's move on to the next slide. All right, capitalism is another political ideology. It is an economic system, first of all, because it talks about how resources within society should be allocated to individuals within society and not to the government. It is the individuals that is in charge of the production of wealth within the society. So it is an economic system, first of all, but it is also a political ideology because people think that capitalism as an economic system is the way a society should operate within the world. So let's look at the definition. Capitalism is primarily an economic and social system characterized by private ownership of the means of production, where individuals and business operate for profits in competitive markets. So the primary characteristic of capitalism is that the means of production within the society rests in the hands of private individuals and not the government. So individuals and businesses operate for profits in competitive markets. That means the law of demand and supply works for them. When people demand goods and services, businesses produce these goods and services and sell it to those who are in demand of them, and then they get profits in return. That is how a capitalist society works. So capitalism as a political ideology provides a comprehensive framework for how society should be organized economically and politically. Economically in the sense that private individuals are allowed to produce wealth within society, and politically in the sense that the government should provide policies that will allow these individuals to do what they want to do, to produce this wealth within the society. Those policies, the laws that are created by the government should favor the people as they go about their daily business. So it prescribes ethical ideals such as individual freedom and private ownership. Freedom is a very important feature of capitalism. You should be free to use your money as you see fit, to produce goods and services for those who need them within society. Private ownership is another ideal. Individuals own the means of production. So examples of countries that practice the capitalist system include the United States of America, United Kingdom, Germany, Australia, etc. Now let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so the following are the core principles of capitalism. Capitalism is based on the concept of private ownership of resources, including land, labor, and capital. So this is what we're talking about when we're talking about resources. You need to be able to have the land. In case you're a farmer, you need to be able to plant on the land. You need to have a location where your business is based. So you need land. You also need labor. You need to be able to employ people within your organization, and then you need capital, you need money to start the business, to create those goods and services that you intend to sell for profits. So all of these are the resources, and it is in the hands of private individuals and not the government in a capitalist society. Choices are made by the people. They decide how to spend their money. What is to be produced is also based on the choices of the consumers. So it is not the government that determines what is to be produced within the society in a capitalist economy or in a capitalist society. It is in the hands of the consumers, those people who actually want something. They are the ones that decide what should be produced. And owners of businesses and organizations, they listen to consumers. And based on the choices of consumers, they produce goods and services and sell it to these consumers for profits. So individuals and businesses are allowed to compete with each other in the free market. So in a capitalist society, different businesses are allowed to exist. Even if they sell the same thing and they are standing side by side, they are allowed to do that. It is legal within a capitalist society to own a business that is similar to other businesses within that society. So it encourages innovation, efficiency, and the production of high-quality goods and services. Now that you know you're in competition with other people, you will try to make your goods and services better than others so that you can sell. And this helps to encourage innovation. People continue to find new ways of making their products better within the society. So capitalists advocate for minimal government interference in economic activities. The market is expected to self-regulate. So the government is not in charge of regulating the market. It is the law of demand and supply that works. So when people demand something and you supply it, that's how the price of goods and services are constructed within the society. So government does not interfere naturally with these market forces. So capitalism is often associated with individual freedoms, as individuals have the autonomy to own property, start businesses, and make economic choices. So individual freedom is a core principle of capitalism. You have to be free to be able to use your money to produce goods and services that will bring you profit in return. Freedom is a very important principle in capitalism. Now let's move on to the next slide. So the following are the merits of capitalism. One of them is efficiency. Capitalism is often praised for its efficiency in resource allocation. The profit motive encourages businesses to use resources more efficiently and produce goods and services that are in demand. So when you practice capitalism in your society, the society runs more efficiently. So dependent on the consumer's need, you produce goods and services. And when you're in competition with other people, you try to make your goods and services better. All of this makes the society more efficient to produce more resources at the end of the day, to produce more profit at the end of the day. So another merit of capitalism is innovation. Competition fosters innovation as businesses try to develop new and improved products to gain a competitive edge. So capitalism helps to increase the spirit of innovation, especially when you're in competition with other people. Then it also helps with economic development. Capitalist economies have historically shown higher rates of economic growth compared to other economic systems. When you continue to make profits, the economy continues to grow within that society. So this is different from other systems that are practiced in other parts of the world. So this is why people tend to embrace socialism, and this is why they believe it should be the system that should be practiced in the society. So another merit is individual incentives. So the pursuit of profit provides individuals with a strong incentive. Incentive means reward, right? You need something to push you to do something, and it is the pursuit of profit that helps to drive people to do work, to produce goods and services within the society. And without that incentive, without that reward of profits, people may not want to engage in the business of capitalism. So now let's move on to the next slide where we'll discuss the demerits of capitalism. One of the demerits is income inequality. So remember, this is one of the criticisms of anarchism. They believe that in a capitalist society, the income that is generated by members of the society may not be equal. This leads to a society with class, where you have people in the upper class, the middle class, and the lower class based on the income that they generate. So in a capitalist system, a small portion of the population accumulates a significant share of wealth, and there is a huge gap between the rich and the poor. And this is the central argument made against capitalism by Karl Marx. We are going to talk about this particular character later on when we are discussing another political ideology. This is one of the biggest criticisms of capitalism. They believe that it is only a small portion of society that accumulates most of the wealth. The reason is because once you own the land and the capital within the society, the more profit you earn, the bigger your company grows. But those who started with nothing, it is very difficult for them to climb up the social ladder because they have no capital to start with at the beginning. So all of this makes the gap between the rich and the poor grow larger. And so this is why capitalism has often been criticized by other political ideologies. So now let's move on to another demerits, which is exploitation. Capitalism can lead to the exploitation of workers, as businesses may prioritize profits over fair wages and working conditions. Because of this, employees are paid little even when the company makes a lot of profit. So this happens sometimes where those people who work, the labor within that organization, they are paid little while the company continues to amass profit for themselves. So the more they amass, sometimes they may choose not to increase the wages of the workers, those people who actually do the work to bring the money into the company. So this is one of the criticisms of capitalism. Also, there is rivalry. Competition can lead to unhealthy rivalry among producers of different or the same products in a capitalist system. We talked about how in a capitalist system, different organizations can produce the same goods and services. This can lead to unhealthy rivalry within the society. This is another demerit of capitalism. Then we have business cycles. Capitalist economies are susceptible to economic fluctuations, including booms and recessions, which can lead to unemployment and financial instability. So we have the market forces that have been controlling this capitalist system for generations. It has been working well, but oftentimes we have booms and then we have recessions. Booms in the sense that the amount of profit generated by these organizations within the society increases. But we have recession where it decreases due to increase in price and inability of consumers to afford the goods and services produced. So all of this can affect the profits that are made by individuals in the system. It's kind of like you are putting a lot of money, investing a lot of money in your business, but sometimes the business may not work out. And as a result of that, it can lead to a lot of loss on the part of the business owner. So this can be a demerit of capitalism as opposed to other political ideologies that we are going to discuss later on. So now let's move on to the next slide. So communalism is another political ideology. So communalism developed in Africa. So this is why it's also referred to as African communalism. So it is a philosophical and socio-political concept that emphasizes the collective ownership, management and utilization of communal resources for the common good. So the person who introduced this, which is Julius Nyerere of Tanzania, he believed that Africans should go back to their roots. In the pre-colonial era, we all owned the resources within the society, the land, the water. All the resources within the society are collectively owned by members of the community. And he believed that this is a better system than the system that was introduced by the Europeans when they came to colonize us. Fundamental to communalism is the belief in the deep connection between individuals and their community. So those who believe in this ideology believe that the individual is so connected to the community, and concepts like exploitation does not exist within the African society. We do not exploit other members of the society because we believe that the land and everything within it is collectively owned by every member of the society. So they believe that personal welfare is linked to communities' overall welfare. So if one member of the society is not doing so well, the community is affected by that, and they will want to try to make sure that that member of the community gets better. So if they need to contribute some money, some resources they have in their houses to help this person, they can do so in order to lift that person up. So this is the ideology that was originated in the African society. So one of the founding fathers of communalism is Julius Nyerere of Tanzania. He advocated for a return to traditional political customs and the dismissal of unfavorable elements of foreign countries. Now let's move on to the next slide where we'll discuss the core principles of communalism. One of the core principles is that it places the community at the center of social organization and prioritizes collective welfare over individual gain. So the profit you earn at the end of the day is not important in African communalism. So whatever profits you earn is for the benefit of the entire community. Community is at the top in this particular society. So it also advocates for the sharing of resources, both material and social, to ensure that everyone's basic needs are met. So individuals in society do not amass wealth for themselves. They try to share it to make sure that everybody in the society are benefiting from whatever they get. Land and institutions such as schools, farms, etc. are collectively owned by the community, and there is no private ownership. So it is the entire community that builds the schools, that owns the farms. It's not owned by individual members in the society. Decision-making processes are often inclusive and participatory so that community members can have a voice in matters that affect them. So they practice a form of direct democracy where everybody is allowed to voice out their opinion, and everybody's opinion is listened to within the society. Communalism often values the wisdom of elders and seeks to preserve traditional cultural practices and knowledge. So the elders are looked up to in a communalist society. Now let's move on to the merits of communalism. One of the merits is social cohesion. Communalism fosters strong social bonds within communities and promotes unity and cooperation among members. So this political ideology helps to bring people together to develop a strong bond between members of the community. It also develops a spirit of resilience. The collective nature of communalism can provide a safety net during times of hardship, as individuals can rely on the support of the community. When you are facing a time of hardship, the community can help to lift you up. This helps to strengthen the community in times of hardship. So there is also cultural preservation. By valuing traditional practices and knowledge, communalism helps to preserve cultural heritage and identity. You always listen to the elders who know a lot about the culture and traditions of the people. And by this, culture and traditions of the people are preserved for generations to come. Then there is also resource redistribution. The emphasis on sharing resources helps to reduce disparities and ensure that basic needs are met for all members of the community. Like I said earlier, individuals do not amass wealth, they distribute it to other members of the society so that there is a redistribution of resources within the society. Now let's move on to the demerits of communalism. One of the demerits is that it discourages individuality. Communalism may discourage individuality and dissent, as they can be pressured to conform to the norms and expectations of the society. So certain people who deviate from the norm may not be allowed to speak up, to discuss or to express their uniqueness within the society, and this can be a demerit. There is also dependency. In some cases, communalism may foster a culture of dependency where individuals rely too heavily on the support of the community rather than taking individual initiative. So, within that society, there can be people who do not get what they deserve because they do not work to earn a living. Rather, they depend on other people for that. So this can be a demerit of communalism. There is also inequality within communities. Despite its emphasis on sharing resources, communalism may still perpetuate inequalities within communities, particularly if power dynamics are not addressed. So, in every society, there is always a power dynamic, and in a communalist society, it can exist, although it is not voiced out publicly. But there are certain power dynamics that may control certain things within the society. This can create some form of inequality within that society. There is also resistance to change. The emphasis on tradition and elders' wisdom may hinder innovation and adaptation to changing circumstances. You always have to listen to the elders who are knowledgeable about the culture and traditions of the people. And people who believe that there are new ways of doing things, they may not be able to voice out their opinion on these issues because they have to follow the ideals of the community. So this can lead a communalist society to be resistant to change. So we've come to the end of the first segment of this video lesson. I believe it was educative and enlightening. If yes, you can continue on this journey with us by going down to the link in the description below. This takes you to my school website where you can subscribe to our government topic by topic video lesson. There you can continue on this journey with us. We are moving on to a new political ideology known as communism. So this is a very important political ideology that shaped the 20th century. That is the previous century. So I hope to see you there. I believe you're enjoying this content. If yes, please do not forget to hit the like button, click on the subscribe button, and lastly tap on the notification bell to get informed as soon as we release the next videos.